Hey, welcome back. All right, let's make our first data visualization. And so we've got our data in here. Here's our metadata. Let's get rocking. And it says right down here in the left-hand corner, it says, hey, go to worksheet, sheet one. And I'll click right there, and here we go. We are going to sheet one, right? And so what we can see is down here in the bottom corner, just like with Excel, when we would create new sheets, we can do the same thing by clicking on these here. The next one over is we want to create something called a dashboard that we'll get to, and the one next to that is a story, and we're not going to mess with that at all today. Okay, so I'm going to head back over here. We're on sheet one, and hey, what is this? This doesn't look at all like Excel, right? Doesn't look at all like Excel, and it's not. This is Tableau. No reason to feel overwhelmed here, though. We can break this down. Tableau is very intuitive, and we are going to take it super easy in today's class. And this is going to make sense. We just need to take it nice and slow. And let's talk about the parts here, okay? So we've got kind of our canvas over here that we're going to work with, all right? And we call this the worksheet view over here. And over on the left-hand side, we have things called dimensions, okay? And these dimensions, and then down here, measures, these are all the fields that we were just looking at in our Excel table, and then in our metadata. We were just looking at all these. And Tableau has gone ahead and broken these up into what it thinks should be dimensions and measures. And dimensions, the things over here in blue, okay, they got little blue icons next to them. Dimensions are basically categories, okay, ways that we would slice and dice our data. And so those would be things like when we've done in other Excel stuff that we've done, we've said, let's look at things by region. Let's look at things by state. Let's look at things by customer name, or let's look at things by months, right? And so everything that we're looking at by, those would all kind of be dimensions. So we were going to slice and dice and chop up our data. Then down below that are measures, and these have these little green icons next to them, and measures are the numerical fields that we're going to do calculations with, right? Now, right over here in this area here, these are called marks cards, and we will deal with those in further videos when we get further along in today's class. Up here we have columns and rows, and we call these shelves. We're going to drag dimensions and measures over here onto the columns and rows shelf, just kind of like we did with pivot tables when we were dragging fields down. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to drag fields over to create stuff. All right? So, hey, are we ready to get started here? Well, let's try making a visualization, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab a dimension, and I'm going to grab a dimension and I'm going to bring it over and put it into the rows shelf. So I'm thinking I would like to analyze something by state, all right? And so I can see I've got this little state field here, and it's got this little blue globe next to it telling me that, hey, this is a geographic field, all right? And hey, look at this. This is interesting. You see, country, state, city, and we've got this country, state, city here. What this is, and this little symbol here, this is what we call a hierarchy. And what this means is that every city is in a state, and every state is in a country, and so it's a hierarchy of largest to smallest, okay? And if we can do this little collapse arrow here, it can become just country, state, city, or if we collapse it, we open it up and expand it, we can see country, state, and city. And so this is a really obvious hierarchy, and so Tableau just did this for us. It's like you know, all cities are in states, and all states are in countries, and so it just did this for us. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab state, and I'm going to bring it over here to my rows. And there we go. Hey, it's a list of all of the states in our data set, and it looks like all 50 states are represented there. So all the states in our data set are all listed right here in the rows, okay? So a lot like a pivot table, I just took a dimension and I drug it up into the rows, and it appeared in the rows, just like a pivot table. Now, I'm going to go and grab a measure, and I'm going to bring that up to the column, right? And so I'm going to look at sales. I'm going to look at the measure sales. I'm going to take that and bring it up into the columns. And it automatically makes what we were not used to seeing in Excel, and what we would call a bar chart. And that is the default visualization for Tableau. And really, when we get down to it, this is the best visualization, the best chart that you can really make. You know, it's really the best chart that we can use if we're just going to make a chart for having a chart. This is the best chart we can do, and that's a bar chart. And it's the default chart that we're always going to get in Tableau, right? So immediately we can get a bunch of information from this, right? But let's go ahead and let's say we wanted to change this chart up. Well, Tableau allows us to use pre-built charts, and they live right over here in this Show Me tab right here. And so if I click on the Show Me tab, it'll open up, and this is basically like in Excel, we have the recommended charts button, and it would have charts for us. And so we can go down through and we can choose any of these, and they're pre-made. And so let's say, it says, hey, do you want to make a map? And so I'll click on that, and it says we recommend a map because of the state information. And right there we can see, hey, here's a map showing the sales at each one of your state locations, and that's pretty cool. And so then, maybe I want to come through and look at a column chart instead, and it's giving it's showing each state with its own color. Not too sure how much I like that. Maybe this one down here, a tree map. Okay, these are pretty cool. It shows the amount of sales by the size of each square. That's pretty cool. Down here we've got maybe these bubble plots, where the size shows the sales, and I don't, so it gives a lot of ideas, stuff that we could use. But we're going to want to make our own charts, and we're going to want to make charts that make sense to us, and we're going to want to build them ourselves. That's going to be the most precise way for us to really get the chart that we need. And so while these recommended charts are nice, if we can build something with a purpose, we'll be better off. And so I'm going to come over and say, hey, don't show me that, put that away, and let's take a look at this chart a little closer. Now, this is our default bar chart, and this is good. Okay, and we can see that it's when I brought state over, it brought over the whole hierarchy. We can see country and state right there. And you know what? All of these states are in the United States, in the country, so I don't actually need country there. And so one of the ways that I can just get rid of things, just like with pivot tables, when we would just drag something off of a pivot table, I can do the same thing here and say, hey, you know what? I don't need country. I'll left click and drag and just drop it away from that, and it'll go away. And so I didn't need that information. It wasn't adding anything. And so there we go. I've just got a list of states and then my sales in the size of these bars. Now, I may want to sort my data just like we did back in Excel. Sorting was really useful, and I can do that. If I want to sort by state, I just come up here and hover, and it's a little hard to see in this one, but if we look right there, we'll see that there's actually this icon right here, and that's our sort icon. And so if I just go ahead and I click on that, it'll sort it, Z to A or A to Z. I can also sort the sales field right over here. If I just come over to this little icon again, I can say, hey, show me the top sales, show me the descending sales, or back to being alphabetized in the original way by state. Now, you notice there's no numeric values out here, okay? Because really what we're trying to do is to create visualizations and not clutter things up with numeric stuff. If we were doing that, we'd probably just stick back in Excel. But there are reasons that we want numeric values on here, and so we'll go ahead and sort this back to descending and say, hey, let's go ahead and show these numeric values. And I can do that just by coming up to this little T on the tool tab on the toolbar up here. If I click on T, it'll show the labels and it'll show the numeric values there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and undo that and not leave the numeric values there, because if we're going to do that, we should just maybe create another visualization that has numbers in it. And so let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and come down here and rename this sheet. So I'll just double click in here, and I'm going to call this my sales chart. Enter. And then I'm going to come over and create a new sheet over here. And let's look at doing numeric values. Right? So I'm going to do the same thing again here. I'm going to go ahead and bring my state up to my rows. Drag state, bring it up into rows. And now I'm going to say, hey, I want to look at the actual numeric values of sales. And so instead of taking sales and bringing it up into the columns like we did before, I'm instead going to bring it down here and drop it right into the visualization. And it'll say, show me. And when I let go of the mouse, it'll actually show me the numeric stuff there. Okay. And so now I'm looking at the sum of sales out here in this numeric field, and I can go ahead, if I want to look at other numeric fields, also other measures, I can go ahead and drag them out also. Like, let's say I want to look at profit at the same time. I bring it out here also. It turns into a show me, and I let go of the mouse, and now I've got profit and sales. And let's say I also want to look at shipping cost. I can bring that up into here to the show me and let go of it there, right? And then let's say I wanted sales in front of profit. Well, I could just grab sales, drag it, left click, and bring it over here and drop it in front of profit. And so I've got sales, profit, and shipping costs now. Right? So if I want to look at numeric fields, I can do it like this, right? And you'll note up here in the columns area here, it says measure names. And so if I had just brought sales up there, it could have just said sales. But now that I've got sales, profit, and shipping, instead of showing all three of those things, it just says, hey, measure names can be found in the columns. And that's exactly what these are, right? It's three different measure names. And so that's just kind of shorthand, and we can actually do some really cool things with that, and we'll look at that in later videos. And so here we have it. We have all these numeric fields for the stuff that's going on in these states, and then over here we had a visualization. Now in Tableau, we kind of follow this rule. This visualization is much better than these numeric fields. The rule for Tableau is that if you look at something and you can't get any value out of it within about 6 seconds, then you should tear a visualization down and start over again. And I would say that over here in these numeric fields that I really can't get a lot of information quickly in a couple seconds, but over here I really can. I can see that California is the top one, Ohio is the 8th one down, and I can get some really good information about sales and locations just by glancing at this. And so I'm going to go ahead and rename this one over here. I'm going to go ahead and call this sales numbers, and enter. And now let's move on and make our first dashboard so I can really show you what the point is of doing this. And so I'm not going to come to the sheet here. I'm going to come over here to the dashboard, the second one over here, and click on that. And so now we have a new looking worksheet, okay? There's nothing for us to build over here. What we have is we have a preview of the vizzes that we've already made, these sheets down here, sales chart and sales. And so what we do now is we drag these visualizations onto this canvas. So I'm going to say, hey, bring this sales chart over onto here. Okay, cool. I see my sales chart. And now bring my sales numbers over also, and I'll bring these in here. And as I bring in, it says, do you want it on top? Do you want it at the bottom? Do you want it at the side? Well, if I brought it on top, no, that's no good. If I brought it down on the bottom, I don't like that one nearly as much either. What about the side? That looks pretty cool, okay? And so this fits in here nicely. And what I can do now is this is like a dashboard with these two things going here, right? I can look down through this. I can see the various sales that are going on in these states. I could sort this largest to smallest, or by alphabetical, right? And if I was to come in here and look largest to smallest and look down here and say, well, hey, Oregon's pretty small, right? At 17,431. Maybe I'd want to hop over onto here and see Oregon at 17,431, a negative profit and a high shipping cost. We can make this even cooler, all right, by actually filtering this entire set by what we click on over here. And to do that, I use this button right up in here. And let me zoom in up here so we can see this button right here. And this is going to make this map here, this chart, to be the filter. I'm going to come over here and click on that and say, hey, use this as a filter. So I clicked on that little button, use this filter. It's black now. So now if I click on Oregon over here, it filters the rest of the chart to show me just the data for Oregon, right? Or if I wanted to select a whole group of them, I would just left click and drag and select a bunch, and there's the information for all the ones that I've highlighted over here. And so, hey, that's Tableau. There's two data visualizations that we made really quickly and a dashboard that we made. And I hope that you can get a little excited about this to say, hey, how cool is this, right? I mean, imagine building this for your next client, right? Or, building a dashboard like this, an interactive dashboard that your boss at your next internship could do, or even just making this for your next presentation that you do for your next business class. This is so much cooler than just, static charts in Excel or just some pivot table up there that you have to talk about. You can actually interact with these things. And this is just the beginning. We are going to do some incredibly cool stuff coming up in the next few videos. And so I'll see you in the next video.